Hi folks, editing Sara here. A couple of things, one bad, one good. So, for those watching the YouTube version, something happened and I guess a wormhole opened up in my computer and swallowed the video file. So you don't get to see our faces this week. Sorry about that. And the good news, an announcement. We have talked so much with Jack about DS9, we decided that we were going to show him an episode. And so we will be having a live watch of the episode Duet. That is Season 1, Episode 18. This will be a live stream watch on the YouTube channel of the podcast, free to everyone. That's going to be September 6th, Labor Day, at 5 Pacific, 7 Central, and 10 a.m. the next day in Melbourne. So if you'd like to join us, please do. We may even have a special guest. And you get to see Jack react to a little Star Trek. Okay, on with the show.
You want to know what song has been stuck in my head for the last 2 weeks?
Is it She'll Be Coming Around the Mountain?
Sing it to me, big boy.
Oh no, but now that's going to be the next one. Jesus Christ. No, it's I want to know what love is. Want you to show
I think
me.
that's our outtake.
Happy to oblige.
Hi, friends.
Hello, puppets.
Howdy, y'all.
And welcome to Muppets, Sex, and Trauma. I'm Sara Ezzat, maker of the Costume Codex videos.
And I'm Jack Kramme, editor / right-hand man for Passion of the Nerd, editor for Chipperish Media, and co-host of Podcast of the Nerds.
And my name is Josh Gosdin. I am but a man.
And that's enough.
Thank goodness.
And today we have a guest. Ren, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, I am Ren Krieger. I'm also known more popularly as Ren the Barbarian. And basically, I run a YouTube channel where I do videos about mostly Star Trek, but other nerdy things.
Welcome.
Welcome. Josh has been super excited about having you.
Well, I've been super excited about being here, so...
Yay! And
Thanks for being here.
We're all really glad to have you.
Absolutely.
So today we're going to talk about the episode DNA Mad Scientist.
Oh,
yes,
boy.
we are. We are.
This is one of those episodes. It's kind of a landmark for the series. DNA Mad Scientist was written by Tom Bloquist and directed by Andrew Prouse, who directed the premiere of the series and will direct many future episodes. Moya's crew have sought out the, shall we say, eccentric scientist Namtar, who they hear may be able to give them maps to their home worlds. And after taking a sample of their DNA in the most eye-watering way possible, he says he can give them what they desire, but at a price.
I will require one of your pilot's arms.
John is sure the others would never agree and decides to drown his sorrows because Namtar couldn't find Earth anyway. Aeryn is looking pensive, but she sees how desperate the others are, and she thinks they will do whatever they have to do. And in Pilot's chamber, we see that, sadly, she's right. Despite Pilot's pleas for mercy, Rigel, Dargo, and even Zahn work together to cut off his arm. They see the chance to go home, and they take it. Aeryn is rightly pissed, and Dargo tries to deflect.
Passion from a peacekeeper.
But our girl is having none of it.
For a comrade.
John is shocked, not only by the brutality of it, but by how accepting Pilot is of the whole thing. Even though Pilot's arm will grow back, how can he be so calm? Pilot says putting his needs last is the price he pays to see the stars.
Considered a perfectly equitable arrangement.
Namtar happily takes the arm and gives them a crystal with all the data. Too much data, it seems. Moya cannot process all of it. She might be able to process one map. Time to play everyone's favorite game, which desperate exile gets the ride home? Oh, this is going to go well. Meanwhile, the thought of people going home is bringing the feelings for Aeryn and John. He is getting maudlin and drunk, and her, well, she's wondering what will become of her if everyone leaves.
I've always been one among many.
She goes to Namtar's lab and asks is there a way he could help her, give her a map to somewhere she could make a home. Certainly, he says, just take a seat and let him take a sample from her eye. Except he doesn't. Dr. Frankenmuppet injects her with something instead. Back with the others and Pandora's crystal. Things are getting heated and Rigel pulls a Rigel and just straight up steals the crystal. The other two try everything to get it from him, including incarceration, intimidation, and, manipulation, shall we call this?
You know, I'm not really a body breeder. I mean, well, I'm not made that way.
But you do understand pleasure.
This show. Something is happening to Aeryn. Her senses are getting overwhelmed as she feels Moya's senses just as Pilot does. Namtar dosed her with something made from Pilot's DNA. The transformation is more than mental as her body starts to change.
I'm so scared.
John and Pilot see if they can help her, John taking her to the planet to meet Namtar's assistant, Kornata. It's safe to say the first attempt does not go well at all, as Namtar leaves with Aeryn. John tries again with Kornata and learns a little backstory. It seems this isn't Namtar's lab, or it wasn't meant to be. He was her lab animal. John manages to get Kornata to agree to help. She and Pilot create an antidote together. And it's a good thing she's there, as Rigel has managed to outwit Zahn and Dargo and is about to upload the crystal data. Kornata tells John Namtar did something to the crystal.
Erase everything that's in there.
Erase Moya. John smashes the crystal just in time, and as it dies, everyone gets one tantalizing glimpse of the map home. John and Kornata head back to the lab with the antidote. John distracts Namtar with a lecture from Scientific Ethics 101, but Namtar obviously has a well-thumbed copy of Ayn Rand somewhere in his fetish wearish outfit. And John learns what Twitter will teach us all. Some people can't be argued with. But it distracts him long enough for Kornata to dose him, and he reverts to a sort of melted rat state. The day is over and Aeryn is saved, but shaken by the experience. John offers her some comfort food and a listening ear.
Aeryn.
Elsewhere, Dargo seeks out Pilot. He doesn't apologize. It seems Luxons don't, but he offers him what he can, and it's not enough, but it's something.
Yeah.
This episode is a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, this was the first episode that I realized that the Moya crew doesn't always act with integrity. And I think it really sort of demonstrated the gray morality that the show sometimes has. At the end of the day, doing what's right takes a backseat to getting back to their respective homes. Even Zan, who, granted, offers to take Pilot's pain, even she still doesn't hesitate to join into the de-appendaging. You'd expect them to at least have a moment of moral conflict, where they're standing around going oh no, this is horrible, we can't do this, but we have to get back to our homes. No, they just go for it. It just cuts to them slicing his arm off.
Yeah.
Oh boy, this episode, I feel I have very similar feelings about this one than I had about the last one. It's It's very well made, and there's a lot of like interesting stuff going on. It has a lot to say, but so much about it just made me angry and annoyed me. And that's specifically Zahn, Dargo, and Rigel.
Took the words right out of my mouth, Jack.
Oh boy.
The episode was well done in my opinion. I was much more interested, I should say, in John and Aeryn's plot line than I was in the Moya crew turning on themselves kind of a deal. And I feel like for some reason Rigel's behavior didn't surprise or bother me nearly as much as Zahn's did. And I'm kind of waffling on Dargo. Dargo, well, we'll get to it a little bit, when we dig into each of the elements. But I feel like that is in ascending order of how far off of the character that has been presented to me so far each of the three of them feel.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, well, I love this episode. I don't love their actions in the least. No, like. But at the same time, I kind of understand the thought of, for these exiles, this is Pandora's box. This is the hope of getting home, and hope for the hopeless sometimes is not actually a good thing. Sometimes it can lead people to do horrible things. I find that really interesting. But also, then there's Aeryn's story, which just every second of it, it tears me to pieces, in a way that's extremely cathartic and just like, torture in a narratively satisfying way.
Yeah, she's my favorite part of this episode. I think she's amazing.
It's so rare to see Aeryn get to be like vulnerable, because she's usually like, super tough army chick, and in this episode, like, she really had to let her guard down and be vulnerable because like something horrible is happening to her. Like, she's been violated.
Yes.
And we're seeing, we also get to see an expansion of her moral compass, I guess, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and we finally get what you've been asking for too, Jacko. We get a lot more about Pilot this episode.
Yes, absolutely. But not like this, though, Josh. Not like this.
You still think he's sketchy? You still suspicious there?
No, now I just want to cuddle him and be like, it's okay, buddy. It's okay. Jackie's here. Don't worry.
Literally in my notes, like in the scene where he's talking to John about having to leave his planet, I just wrote down Pilot is bae.
Yeah, right. Oh.
There's something interesting about how he is willing to give up everything to leave his planet, to leave his home and make a home on Moya. And everyone else is desperate to do anything to get home because he chose to leave.
Mm-hmm.
He's an immigrant, essentially. He chose to leave his home, and they are refugees and exiles. They were forced from their home. They would do anything to get it back.
And so it's not really explained, but he says that his species are unable or incapable of spaceflight without like assimilating with a Leviathan.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay? Yeah, it's I don't know. Yeah, that poor guy.
I don't think it's been fully established yet, but Pilot is he is stuck.
Yeah,
there he has tendrils in.
Yeah, that's what I was assuming. Yeah, it's like a symbiosis kind of a symbiotic kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I got as well, and definitely a couple episodes ago, Pilot standing up for Moya. How dare you take Moya's blood without permission? And all that kind of stuff. Juxtaposed against learning what we do about him and his motivations in this episode was kind of heartbreaking.
And how he kind of just shrugs it off and says, "Oh well, I understand why they did what they did." I can't remember his exact wording, but he kind of placates them and just goes, "Oh well, it's okay." It's like, dude, no, this is not okay. They mutilated you. Like, what the hell? This is not cool.
I do love though when in the scene where they're like, "Oh no, our map isn't working," and he's all like, It sucks for you.
Yes. What would you give up?
I wonder, which part of me you'll have to trade this time.
Yeah, he is a little bit passive aggressive.
Which he has totally earned.
Right.
Because screw them.
Absolutely. I think
Absolutely earned.
I was about to say inhumanly patient with them, but that's probably not the right wording. But he had a right to be far more pissed and aggressive than he actually is, and that kind of makes me love him even more because I just feel so sorry for him. Poor guy.
Absolute king.
Yeah.
So to me, it's significant that we get to understand both his motivations and his worldview, and they do a really good job of using Aeryn to illustrate Pilot's life, basically, and connecting the dots between what Namtar is trying to extract from Aeryn, the basically like the superhuman multitasking ability, which comes along with that hyper awareness and the ability to like absorb information and understanding from all points. Combining that with the final conversation between Pilot and Dargo at the end when Pilot is like, your motivations are perfectly clear, to me indicates that, part of Pilot's lack of, righteous rage, I guess, is rooted in what can easily be boiled down to hyperactive empathy. For his fellow comrades. Like, even as they're cutting off his arm, he understands their pain.
Right.
Because he can see it and feel it from all of them. Like, all at once.
I do like, though, that, like, this thing, with Aeryn transforming into a pilot, which, is awful. It did give them sort of, like, this, like, point of, like seeing each other, like, she says, I can feel everything on the ship with the DRDs and everything. He's like, you can feel that? It's like it made a connection between them, which I thought was really cool, considering that Moya was previously a peacekeeper prison ship, essentially.
What must it mean to Pilot for someone to see what he experiences? Like, just to recognize him in that way. The thing about leaving your home is you don't get to talk to people who are like you, who know your experience. So, but in this case, Aeryn does see him, and it's a powerful thing to be seen.
Yeah, I love that connection between them. I'd love to see that to grow.
Pilot says something about how his job is to look after Moya, but also Moya's crew. Yeah. Like Dargo at one point says he is a servicer, and I think that's how Pilot sees himself. And so I don't know. It's almost like he just I don't know, man. He made the sacrifice play in a way. I mean, he like. They took his arm and he didn't want them to, but the fact he was just like, oh, well, I get it. It's like, he's just, I don't know. He's just that poor boy.
Jack is a pilot stand now.
Basically.
Yeah.
I mean, how could you not? He's Pilot.
But yeah, he sees himself as like he has to take care of everybody, and I guess that includes forgiving them when they mutilate him, like, which is like, dude, I wouldn't be that forgiving. Even if my arm was gonna grow back, you ain't taking my freaking arm. Like, it's not gonna happen.
It was interesting though, an illustration of the notion that forgiveness doesn't necessarily require an apology. Like, Pilot's act of forgiving happens independent of any remorse that any of the other three feel.
And he's forgiving, but he's not forgetting.
Which is important.
So, having talked about our beloved Pilot, should we talk about the three who misbehaved in this episode? Yeah, I think we're a bit divided on whether we saw this as in character or breaking character or earned by the story.
With Rigel, it was totally in character, and even with Dargo, like, you know, he's fun sometimes, but he can also be kind of a, you know, brute sometimes. So I would say it was also in character for him. It's not something that you would expect from Zahn, but at the same time, it's like, you know, she was put on Moya in the first place because she was like a violent and anarchic dissident. So it's kind of like, is it really out of character for her?
Yeah, that whole scene though, where they take his arm, it's so brutal and grim and gross, and it happens so abruptly too. Like it's like a snap cut to it, and it's over in like 10 seconds less even, and the way that like Pilot's objecting, but it's like he didn't have a choice. Clearly, like they were taking that freaking arm, and it was just, there was something so barbaric about it. Like it really made me want to throw up. Like I really didn't like it. Ren, I agree that I feel like for Dargo, the whole thing was very much on character, or in character, and so because of that, it was easier for me to digest Dargo's role in the whole thing, even though it's not good. It's just as awful, but it made more sense for him to be like that, whereas not so much. Well, definitely not with Zahn. Yeah.
No, I absolutely. You know, this is something that I would expect Rigel to try to do, to be like, well, he's got 3 other ones, doesn't he? And you know, that to be part of the discussion was absolutely something that I would expect Dargo to be like, you know, what are his regenerative capabilities, and take kind of a utilitarian view on it. Like, can he endure losing an arm? And then I would expect Zahn to swoop in and be the conscience, which is how she has functioned largely up until this point. She has been a counterbalance to their baser instincts and to their brutality, and their selfishness and all that kind of stuff. We've also seen that Rigel's selfishness is largely rooted in his own feelings of inadequacy, and his own fear of like not being good enough, or of, you know, accidentally hurting Moya in that one episode. And all that kind of stuff. And we definitely know that is true for Dargo. And I think this episode was just an illustration of what happens when the moral counterbalance isn't present. Zahn goes along with it, you know, and in several ways, Zahn is driving it. And it was exceedingly unfun. I was not having a good time.
Yeah.
And and even the way that she was like, "Please, I can take away your pain," was like, "Oh, fuck you."
Yeah.
She was like, "Please."
Yeah, and the thing that really bothers me too is that Zahn acts like they didn't have a choice, and that is absolutely not true. They had a choice.
They just didn't have a good choice. But they had a choice.
There it is. There it is. And yeah, Dargo simply says, he is a servicer. He will get over it. I will see to it. It's like, no, dude. Like, missed the point much? Yeah. Like, Jesus Christ.
I did like how, up until like the very last scene, Dargo was kind of a dick the whole episode. He was like, who cares about Pilot, blah blah blah. But then like at the end, you know, he brings his instrument and he plays, which really shows he really did feel bad about it. He just wasn't like letting his feelings show. He was like, I gotta turn off the emotion, I gotta go full Spock.
Yeah, he expressed his remorse. Is what I took that scene to be.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that scene for a second, because
let's talk about that scene.
You know, I understand what they were trying to do with that scene, and I get that it was an attempt at Dargo showing some compassion, and in a way, it was his way of apologizing without actually saying sorry. But the fact that he says he would do it all again ruins the moment for me completely. I mean, it's kind of cool. The instrument looks nice, and it's a little sentimental, but I don't know. It just the fact that he was like, well, I'd do it all again. Be here. Let me play you a song. Like, no, that's I don't like it.
I actually like that part where he was like, okay. I do it all again, for 2 reasons. Number one, I'm not sure I believe him. But because like that's the kind of thing you say when you're trying to convince yourself of something, right?
Also, that's a bit of that lux and bravado coming through too, I guess. Yeah.
But in number 2, if I'm going to be stranded in the middle of the Star Ocean inside of a living ship for whom I'm responsible for carrying, and there's a real chance that at some point, for whatever reason, I'll just be dismembered by the people that I'm hanging out with on a daily basis, I'd like to have some forewarning.
It's that life of pi dynamic.
Yeah, he was letting know, he was like, listen, this is how it is. And there's something that I appreciate about that.
I appreciate that perspective, and you might have changed my mind a little bit. I see where you're coming from, but I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I guess I wanted him to show some like straight up, like direct, like compassion and empathy and guilt, but that's just not the Luxon way. So whatever, you know.
Yeah, he isn't there yet. I agree. I likewise don't believe him when he says that, but also if he said he wouldn't do it again, I wouldn't believe that either.
Right.
I think he's come to the place where we don't know if he would do it again. And if he were honest with himself, I think he doesn't know. Mm-hmm. And this is not the end of his journey.
Yeah.
Season 1. Yeah. And I would, when we were talking about Zan, let's not forget what happened last episode. Like, we didn't like it, and I think it was clumsily achieved. Mm-hmm. But I think the reason for what happened last episode was so that we could have this episode. I think between that and the opening scene where she, like, look at her face when she holds that map of Delvia, and she has that hope.
She's enthralled by it.
Yeah, who she has built herself up to be was destroyed in the last episode. And yes, it was clumsily built, but that's
reality.
What we're left with is she has lost everything she's built to be the peaceful all mother and put all her selfishness and all that aside, got obliterated. And then she gets that tantalizing hope. Like, there is a reason that I think that Namtar chose Delvia to show them. It's like, this is the one whose resolve I need to break.
Oh, okay. I like that.
And so, yeah, there she's given this. And I think, like, I don't think we see a sane Zahn in this episode at all. I think we see Zahn as a complete mess. And which is where we've not used to seeing her. And so, like, I find her, it's better on a rewatch, I think, but I find it really interesting to watch sort of, she's clearly, she made that decision, like, she jumped straight for that decision. She clearly seems desperate when she does it, when she does I'm going to take away your pain, now do it now. And then I think we see her struggling with having done that, but in a sort of like she's having her own argument internally with I did this thing, and I think there's kind of, suddenly it feels like there's kind of two Zahns at play here. There is the desperate exile who wants to get home and who has had all of her resolve shattered. And there is the memory of who she was, and the part of her that wants to get back to the priest.
There was like a blink and you'll miss it moment where she was, sitting there saying, like, I don't feel good about what we just did. But, it quickly kind of dissolves into the, which one of us is going to go home first hijinks.
Yeah, see, I felt like I saw more remorse from Dargo than Zahn. I don't recall seeing any of that from Zahn, but maybe I missed it. I was typing and looking at my notes for a second or something, because I don't think I saw any of that. But Zahn is really starting to disturb me, and like, I'm kind of starting to dislike her a little bit. And she was like, I loved her. Like, she was my sweet, warm, caring mother. And now it's just, I don't know, man. I'm wondering if the last episode and this episode, they're hinting at the beginning of like a dark arc? Is this going to be like a Mother of Dragons kind of thing? Like, I don't know. And I was hoping, I said in the last episode that I was hoping that this episode would resolve the issues that I had with her, but it's just getting worse, you know? And here's the thing. I'm not sure if she is actually getting worse, or even if she is the most morally corrupt and selfish person this episode, or if it just seems that way to me in contrast to how she was, or how I saw her at the beginning of the series, because she was so warm and like mystical and wise and all that stuff, and now she's just so self-serving, and you know, she tries to manipulate Rigel to get what she wants, and she seems like the most willing to remove Pilot's arm. And as we said, Dargo went along with it too, but it was more in character for him. This didn't seem in character for Zahn, and it feels like it just comes out of nowhere, like this episode and the last episode. It seems to be such an abrupt heel turn.
If you hadn't brought it up, sorry, I was going to bring it up, because that's the only thing. That's the only thing at this point that is giving me any kind of like hope or empathy for Zahn in this particular episode, and that is last episode. That is that old black magic. Which I agree, you know, the journey we took to get here didn't do it for me, you know, because in the last episode, her jump to conclusions, Matt, of like, well, I guess I've got to be a sadist in order to help my friends, didn't hit it for me. It was like, what? Why? Like, who? Yeah, so anyways, and then in this episode, yeah, I think you're absolutely right that that ties in with my perception of her role in the crew. Like, without her conscience in place amongst the group, this is the result. Because she was manipulating she was trying to manipulate Rigel. She was actively manipulating Dargo the entire time, and like, what was the driving force behind the nefarious actions in this episode? The smash cut from Aeryn being like, "You don't think they would do it," to them doing it, was so unpleasantly jarring to me, because my experience in the film and cinema that I consume is that's the kind of thing that's done for comedic effect,
right?
And rather than what I guess I would have expected of like a slow pan up of the three of them standing in Pilot's chamber and walking slowly towards the pilot and the music, and Pilot goes, "What can I do for you?" And, you know, like, you know, and then we get to grab his arm, you know, but just a smash cut to them in the middle of Looney Tunesing it was also unfun for me. And I think that's, I guess, part of my objection to some of this, as well as the execution of the episode, like the production choices of this episode.
I do have to give them props for how they did that, though, with the smash cut, because I think it had the effect that was intended.
Sure, I was disturbed.
Yeah,
You're supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. So well done there, even though I hated it.
I think that we should also remember this was before the smash cut thing as comedy got used so much that it sort of became a trope that our brain immediately goes, smash cut means humor. Wait, this isn't humor. Like, no, this is horror. This is smash cut can also be horror.
This was
one thing I noticed that was interesting. So you know how at the end of the last episode, Aeryn says to Zahn, "Oh, you know, you're actually a pretty good soldier," and then Dargo says to Aeryn, "You could not have cut her deeper." I noticed in this episode, there's a scene where, you know, when Aaron's like, "How could you do that to Pilot?" And Zahn says to her, "I know why you're upset. It's because you'll never be able to go home again." She's kind of the first one who gives voice to that. And I was like, oh, I see. Now she's getting her back for reading her. She's reading her back now.
Nice. I didn't notice that.
It's a nice little parallel.
Except, is she right? Is that why Aaron's upset?
I mean, she's probably upset about the arm thing too.
Poor Aeryn.
I think Zahn's slightly deflecting, like, oh, you're not mad about the arm. You're just mad that you don't get to go home.
Oh, totally.
And assuage that guilt.
I'm gonna pull up that thread that you're dangling in front of me like I'm a cat, Sara. In Thrown for a Loss, Zahn was able to relate to the Tavlek kid who was high on the gauntlet, based on, we inferred, her prior experiences in life. And the tragic end to that episode where the Tavlek goes back and he goes, "My choice," and puts the gauntlet back on, and she turns off the thing and she goes, "No speech, no preaching," or I can't remember. I think it was "no preaching" that she said. In that old black magic, she fell off the wagon. And the devastation that an addict can bring when they are off the wagon is incalculable. In particular, the way that they can maneuver circumstances and people around them in order to continue to get what they think they need or want in that moment, is usually vastly outweighed by the immense self-loathing of knowing that one has fallen off the wagon, and being able to not look at yourself in the mirror. And if in that state of self-loathing, one is presented with something that represents something good about that person, one last ray of hope about that person, like, say, home, then sure, it's understandable. This,
Josh the philosopher.
you called it, Sara. This was not Zahn in her right mind. This was Zahn high.
And that doesn't mean we have to forgive her actions.
Absolutely, and those are two entirely separate concepts. Being able to understand is key and crucial.
I really hope you guys are right, and this isn't like the real Zahn, and I hope they show us that. But if she does go on some crazy war path, if this is like a Dark Willow thing, I just hope they go all in with it rather than wishy-washy back and forth stuff. Because, like, if you're gonna do something, just freaking do it.
This is Farscape. It doesn't ever do what you expect.
Yeah, I've gathered that. Yeah, I don't.
That's what I'm going to say about the future.
I just feel so. I don't know. I feel disappointed in our girl. You know, it's like, Zahn, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, come on, man.
Oh, totally. I am so disappointed in her actions. As a story, I appreciate them taking us to this place where I am like, you bitch.
You blue-assed bitch.
Yeah. Full on, you blue-ass bitch. Yeah. How dare you do this? And then how dare you speak to Aeryn like that? And I appreciate that the show can make me do that about a character that I also love.
I am, and I am trying to have some sort of empathy for them. I mean, the adage is, everybody has a reason for being the way they are, and I get it. Like, they're lost in space. I get that. They all want to go home, but it's still so brutal,
Oh yes,
it really is, and I think the other thing that frustrates me is that a lot of the philosophizing, the waxing that I just did, is based on me trying to. I'm reaching. I feel like I don't feel like the episode actually communicated very well a lot of what it is that I'm putting on top of Zahn's actions. As a viewer, and a viewer who's trying to pull apart Farscape as we go through it together. Because, like, episodic television wise, if I hadn't watched that old black magic right before DNA Mad Scientist, I might not have made the connection. And even, if I had, I might not have made the connection, because we spend so little time actually focused on Zahn as a character in this episode. She's she's an antagonist or a plot device in this episode. We get insight into Aeryn obviously and Pilot obviously, but we also encounter Zahn through Dargo and Rigel's perspectives. We don't encounter Dargo and Rigel through Zahn's perspective.
Right.
Yeah, I think the what makes this episode difficult when you haven't seen more of the series is the failure of that old black magic. And this is the thing about when you're trying to, I think particularly at this point in the evolution of television, when they're trying to move from the episodic style to in an arc, because this is even though a lot of the arc is largely a character story. This is not episodic television. Right. This is arc television, and it is it's troubling. I think much as I love this episode, I recognize that you're right. You're correct. It does fail on that. I think that I laid a lot of that failure on black magic, because I think that's what black magic was supposed to give us.
I really wish it was much more obvious, like if Zahn is sort of out of her mind, if she's a little drunk on whatever, like that to me just doesn't seem very obvious, and I wish it was a lot more obvious. And
every first season needs its iRobot Eugene.
Good point.
Very true.
And that there is a worse episode this season.
Oh, great. Good.
But even then, iRobot Eugene gave us Jenny Calendar.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
And so we still pull the good from the episodes that miss it for us.
And this is not an iRobot because, let's talk about Aeryn.
Oh, Aeryn.
My queen.
Take it away, Ren.
Yeah.
I just like I said, she gets to be so vulnerable in this episode, and it's really beautiful. Like when she's talking to John about how she's never really been alone. Obviously, from our perspective, Peacekeeper's bad, but to her perspective, that was her family. It was a brotherhood, and she's been ripped away from that, and she's just so terrified of being alone and being by herself that she goes back to Namtar, and it's please help me find a colony of Sebaceans that I can settle down with. She's so scared that she's asking for help, and Aeryn doesn't do that. It's Claudia Black. She's great at vulnerability.
Yeah.
Jeez, man.
Aaron's pretty much the only person, I guess, besides Pilot and maybe Crichton, that isn't a complete douchebag this episode. And and regardless of that, she still ends up getting the shittiest end of the stick. She gets horribly messed over. And as sad as it is to say, it sort of happens because of her own temptation. She at first says no to Namtar, but then she's tempted and she wants to, obviously, she wants somewhere to go. I get that, but she goes back because she's tempted, and then she gets turned into a pilot. It's. Yeah, oh, my poor girl. Of course, she is absolutely right to be disgusted in the actions of Dargo and Zahn. And I love the scene where she tells them off. My God, that is so good. What does she say? I've got it here in my notes. How could you? Pilot is defenseless. You attacked one of your own. It's just so good. It's so good, yeah.
I know. And then Dargo is compassion from a peacekeeper, so scathing.
Yeah, and she goes for a comrade. Oh, God.
Exactly.
Yep.
Amazing.
This is how far she's come from the girl who said, compassion? What is compassion? Oh, I hate that feeling.
Right. I love that she's melting in a way. She had this hard exterior, now she's melting and becoming a little marshmallow. I love it. She's warming
just
up
melting.
and
literally in this one she feels like she is
she's learning a lot about compassion and no, just being like moral. I just love her so much.
I was getting Little Mermaid vibes from her this episode.
Oh, okay.
You know, and so the way that she asked about the Sebastian colony to me was very significant. She said, "A place where I can blend in," is what she was asking Namtar for, and she absolutely gets stuck out like a sore thumb this episode, because not only is she Sebastian and a peacekeeper, which already make her stand out, but then she turns into, you know, a melting mermaid is what she looks like, and it was just fantastic, you know, and so if we have two, we've got these two clusters of characters. We've got Zahn, Dargo, and Rigel giving into their baser instincts and really being you know, bullwhipped by Zahn in a lot of ways. And then we've got Aeryn, John, and Pilot, who are, in this episode, just absolutely overflowing with empathy, and all that kind of stuff for each other, and you know, Pilot for the people who hurt him and that kind of stuff. That was also a fascinating juxtaposition for me. I really appreciated that. And at the very end, it took me a minute to kind of get what she was saying when John gave her the happy face food cubes, which just was adorable, that whole fucking scene.
I literally wrote in my notes, "John, your hand in marriage, please."
Right. Like he made her pancakes because she was sick. That was the vibe I got.
I get to use that GIF for you guys now. I love that moment. That's one of my favorite moments in the series.
When she was like, "It was just me." And he goes, "What was the worst part about it?" And she goes, "It was just me." She was forced to. It was a. What am I trying to say? Words. It was Kafka-esque, you know. She was forced to turn into the horrible thing that she is afraid she already is, you know. And John still reached out towards her.
Right.
Like, she wasn't shunned or pushed away like she assumed she would be if anybody ever saw the real, you know, disgusting thing within her, that she assumes that she is hiding from everybody, you know.
Damn, Joshua. Just damn.
Right? I love this man.
He's our boy.
And you know, you said Aeryn is like the Little Mermaid, but ironically, she told her Prince John that she did not want to be a part of his world.
Farscape.
A whole planet of you.
Yeah. I didn't believe her though when she said that. She's trying to play it off like, oh, I wouldn't want billions of you, but she didn't mean that. But I love that scene. She comforts him. She tries to comfort him because he gets drunk because he's depressed because Namtar can't find Earth. But I think a part of that too, side note, I think a part of it too, there is this awfulness going on around him. So he's just like, fuck it, I'm getting drunk. Like, whatever, let's get lit.
Like you do.
Yeah.
As you do.
But I love how she comforts him. She says, they are going home and you will too. I'm like, oh my girl.
Is she doing that to comfort him though? Like, I find that scene really interesting because he's kind of a dick. And she's talking about, I think the essence of what she's saying is, I'm going to be alone. You're going to leave me.
Oh, right.
I think both are true.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I didn't see that, but
everybody's going to leave me.
Yeah, I getcha.
Aeryn.
Remember, she's used to being on a ship full of people just like her. And while, a peacekeeper ship would have been our idea of hell, it was what she knew.
Right.
It was.
She's not used to being alone, except in her prowler.
And that makes me understand even more now why she went back to Namtar, even though it was the wrong decision, obviously. But yeah, I get it. Yeah, I didn't think of that. That's really insightful. Sarah?
Hey, Aeryn's son, more like Aeryn 1.
We did.
Thank you. I'll be here all
You're in
week.
good company. Yeah, I think that both are true. I think that it is possible for somebody with as much, again, I go back to self-loathing, for somebody with as much self-loathing to use to use that to try to comfort somebody else. So like, don't worry, you'll be fine. I won't, but you will. So I definitely think that both are true. But again, like also, she was asking for a Sebastian colony where she could blend in. She looks human when she looks at John and she goes, "Billions of you." Like, at first when that came so early in the episode, I was watching that and I was like, "Have you looked in the mirror lately?" Like, you'll be fine. But if we then, if we put the Kafka thing on top of it, the mermaid metamorphosis that she undergoes in this episode, she can't see herself the same as the humans, as John. She would still feel like a sore thumb sticking out on Earth.
Yeah. Just because she's looks human doesn't mean she is.
Right.
There were a couple interesting things I found in this. I like, much as I find the eye thing, just, I also think there's an interesting metaphorical thing in it, because I think a lot of this episode is Aeryn's arc so far kind of distilled, in that she who has not been comfortable with compassion and didn't know compassion. And what is compassion? What is empathy? Empathy is seeing things through another's eyes. And she has another person's perspective injected against her will into her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I like that. Oh, that's good. Wow. Just quickly, sorry about the eye thing. The idea is squeamish and awful to me, but the way it's done, it doesn't look good on screen. It looks very fake, and it didn't bother me at all because it looks so bad. I'm sorry, Farscape, but that was, yeah.
It was 2000.
Yeah, I know, I get it. I get it, but I don't know, as a horror fan, I guess, I was just hoping for something a little more gross, I guess.
They were trying.
Oh, it makes me cringe every time. Like, I don't care that it doesn't look like it's really injecting. It's the idea of injecting into the eye.
The idea is squeamish and awful, but I don't know, for me, just the way it looked, it didn't look real at all. So I was just like, all right, whatever. But I'm being critical, I'm sorry.
That's what we do.
That's what we do.
Us being critics? What? Never.
Not that we're critiquing media or anything.
No.
Yeah.
None at all.
I love the suit for Namtar, because it's hard enough to walk on stilts as it is, but in all that face prosthetics and everything, my God, I can't imagine.
There also appeared to be some puppetry going on there because his mouth moves like a puppet. I don't know. Once again, Jim Henson bringing their A game, incredible. That was I audibly gasped when I first saw him because he looks that good. He reminds me of the fawn from Pan's Labyrinth.
That's what it. I've spent the whole damn episode trying to figure out what the hell he reminds me of. That's what it is.
I did the first time they kind of showed him mid close up. I was like, is he wearing nipple cups? I was like, okay, Farscape, all right.
It is kind of a fetish gear outfit, and he is able to turn his pain sensors to pleasure.
Right? That was wow. This show doesn't really take me aback anymore, but I was still like, oh wow, that's kinky.
But yeah, as to how it was done, the head is a puppet on an actor's body.
Right? Yeah. That's what I was thinking. It's so good. It's wow. And I like the idea how we think he's Dr. Frankenstein, but it turns out he's Frankenstein's monster. I love that idea.
Yeah, that was a nice twist.
Yeah, that was clever.
Dr. Muppetstein or Franken Muppet.
Frankenstein made himself his own monster.
Right? Yeah, that's good.
That is a postmodern Prometheus if I've ever heard one.
Except he didn't, because Kornata is Dr. Frankenstein.
Yeah.
That's true. Like, at first you think she's Igor, but
Yeah.
The
creature took over.
That was intentional too, because she also has like a hump. You know, they really went for the aesthetic.
Yeah, I love the giant hand.
Yeah,
yes.
Just like comically enormous.
Yeah, yeah, and you don't notice it except that one scene.
The only thing that could be better is Namtar's lip puppetry could be better, but that must be so hard.
Yeah,
that did distract me.
It's very clearly like an animatronic like movement, but I don't know, just something about the whole thing. Just I loved it. So good.
But like as an antagonist, this is the definition of giving people what they want and letting it destroy them.
Yes.
And he knows he's doing that. Like the crystal, the thing they want, Pandora's crystal, is a poison pill. Like this is absolutely giving people what and allowing them to destroy themselves over what they want.
He was I loved his creature design. I loved his voice. Like I was like oddly soothed while he was talking, which was probably the point. And I loved his just badass, undefeatableness. In the bar fight with Aeryn, and then the way he just kept like telekineticing John across the room, and Namtar was great. And yeah, the fawn imagery was definitely prominent as well. And it was also getting satanic imagery with the horns and the way that they kept framing the asteroid as being below Moya. They had to descend down into his lair and all that kind of stuff.
I just thought I'd let everybody know that the cast, Adrian Getley did the movement on Namtar, and Julian Garner did the voice.
Okay.
Can you tell me who did what was her name?
Sarah Burns.
Cortana?
Did Kornata.
Kornata, thank you. Not Cortana. That's now my computer's going to start searching things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Cornetto, but not quite.
Cornetto.
The Kornata trilogy. I'd watch that.
Me too, actually.
Her voice sounded familiar, but it's not who I thought it was.
The whole thing with like Rigel and Zahn and Dargo fighting over the crystal and like who's gonna get to go home first. It was very Tolkien-esque with like the dragon sickness over the gold. That's what it reminded me of.
Or the ring.
I was having Hobbit flashbacks.
Yeah. Rigel is the shithead this episode, but something about him feels less of a shithead than Zahn and Dargo, and I like how he messes with them. I thought that was fun, but ultimately he's doing it for selfish reasons, so I don't know.
He is, but I was actually kind of pleasantly surprised by the way that he was actually able to defeat the two of them. It lent some weight to like, why was he the Dominar? Oh, because he knows a thing or two about palace intrigue, I'm sure.
Right.
Plus, also he's small. He's got to use that to his advantage. Like that's probably how he escapes,
right,
and everything.
Yeah.
The way he's floating overhead, and like Dargo tries to like swipe at him, and he like just moves his little chair out of the way.
There was something really off-putting about Zahn trying to seduce him, though. That was so like weird, but also kind of hot. I don't know. It was. I don't know.
It was very Farscape.
Yeah, and the way she's like stroking his brow and he's getting all into it. I'm like, this is weird, but also I'm kind of into it.
The earlobes were kind of like the Ferengi lobes like thing.
Okay.
And we learned that he is not a body breeder.
Right? Yeah.
Do they like lay eggs or something?
Well, he is an amphibian, so maybe.
The thought of those two banging, I'm like, how would that work? How would...
Very carefully.
Yeah, but, I mean, Zahn was down, though. She was down, so I don't know.
I'm just picturing ZZ Top spinning their guitars in front of them.
Oh, God.
Stop.
I love this man.
Okay, we have an explicit rating on the podcast, but let's not go into detail.
I'm never going to be able to forget that.
I leave it in your editing hands, Sara.
That image is now burnt into my brain.
Excuse yourself.
Oh, wow.
Well, shall we look at themes then? Have you got anything to break our brain, Josh?
Well, that's a tall order, Sara. I mean, I feel like I got a little bit of it out when I was, talking about Zahn falling off the wagon, and this is drunk Zahn, this is high Zahn, this is sneaking pills and having a hip flask Zahn, metaphorically, of course. Jack, you mentioned earlier Aeryn reading them the riot act about dismembering Pilot. I found that really satisfying as well, and I found it particularly poignant coming from her, because in addition to, her whole thing about not turning on a comrade, she also knows a thing or two about how draconianly ruthless peacekeeper life can be. In the last episode, Lieutenant, what was her name, T, helps out Krace, and for her reward, she got her neck snapped. And it just the tension and the on edge that we've seen in the peacekeeper ranks so far, to me, suggests that that's not wildly out of character for the peacekeepers. And so now Aeryn is in a position to have both experienced receiving compassion and giving compassion, and she knows how valuable it can be, but she also knows how awful it is when it's not present. And so she is uniquely qualified to call them out on their poor behavior. And when Dargo goes, that's funny coming from a peacekeeper, she might as well have said, yeah, coming from a peacekeeper. I know a thing or two about what you guys are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so just all episode, the empathy is all over the place, for her as well. She really gets to feel for John. She gets to feel for Pilot. And even, I think, she gets to recognize what Zahn, Dargo, and Rigel are probably going to do, because she understands their pain too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that blew your mind or not, but that's what I got.
Well, I got a couple of things. I mean, the most glaringly not so subtle theme there is eugenics. Woo! That's always a fun subject. It's very, very obvious. We don't really have to dig into it too much. Really, none of it was subtle.
They name-dropped Mengele.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Joseph Mengele,
Yikes.
also known as the Angel of Death. And for those who may not be aware, he was a physician in Nazi Germany that performed horrific experiments on people during World War II. So, yeah, not so subtle theme of eugenics at all. It's all there. We don't really have to do any digging. Just watch the episode.
Yeah, we went full Godwin's Law.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But also picked up on this episode for me comes across as a bit of a cautionary tale of sorts, about how selfishness and greed and how being tempted by those things can not only come back to bite you in the ass, but also how it can harm other people around you. Zahn and Dargo, through their own selfishness, inflict physical bodily harm on somebody who is meant to be their friend. That's horrific. Then, as I mentioned before, a little later, Aeryn is tempted by her own self-interest and goes back to Namtar because she wants to find somewhere that she can call home. But in the end, her temptation leads her getting transformed into a pilot. I think part of what it's trying to say is how technology that seemingly has good uses can also be corrupted and used for evil means and to harm people. There's a scene where Zahn and Dargo are discussing how Namtar's Dana could be used, and Dargo says that it could be used as a weapon, which made me think of the Manhattan Project, but believe it or not, which of course was the advent of the atomic bomb, but indirectly or perhaps unintentionally, that also led to advancements in nuclear medicine and nuclear energy and stuff like that. So yeah, that's sort of that's one I got.
I love that, and I think what makes that even more thematic is that Zahn's abilities, which she has used in the past for healing, which are for healing, of being able to take pain, here is used as a weapon.
Right, yeah, and in the last episode as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's about desperation. Like, what lengths will you go to get the one thing that you want? Would you, cut off a friend's arm? Would you let down all your emotional defenses? Would you have sex with a Muppet? Like, what would you do for a Klondike bar?
Nicely done.
Thank you. At one point, Zan was like, what if they'd asked for one of your limbs? Would you have done that if that was the price? And Dargo just says, well, fortunately it was not, which is not really answering the question. And he also says, like, if Namtar had directions to Earth, John would have given up his momeeks or his memeeks or something.
Mevonks.
Yeah.
Mevonks, which
is a
I'm
word that they're
is a certain part of the male genitalia.
Yes, absolutely, it's balls. It's just full on
and
balls.
Zahn has a pneuma, whatever the hell that is. Yeah, I don't know.
I think we know what that is.
Probably, yeah.
Well, I don't know. For me, it's like I thought pneuma was like sort of like kind of like a symbolic religious thing. Like,
Okay.
I would give up my priesthood to be able to see my home or something. Like that's what it said for me, because her beliefs are very important to her.
I read it as I would give up my vagina.
Or womb, maybe it's a uterus?
Yes, womb. Yeah, like I would give up I would give up pieces of my body is what they are talking about. And it's interesting to me that the piece of their body that they are talking about is extremely gendered. And the gendered approach there of only a woman would... So, he says John would give up his balls. She talks about balls and stuff, and he's like, only a woman would say such a thing. Did you hear yourself?
That was another scene where I was watching it, and Zahn was talking, and I was just like, "Fuck you." She goes, "You would turn it into a weapon?" And I was like, "You just dismembered your crewmate." And
I know, right?
And
you
she
can't
goes,
take the moral high ground here.
Right. And she goes, would you give up your Mevox? And I was like, would you give a shit if he said no? So yeah, I was pissed at Zahn in that scene.
Yeah, it's like I can just see them holding him down. Like,
yeah,
Darko's got his big quilta blade. Like,
Yeah,
I'm coming for you, boys.
Apropos nothing, I was pissed at Zahn in that scene.
I'm doing a jewel heist.
Oh yeah, Zahn had no moral high ground, and I like that. They're having this, and that's when I read Zahn sort of seeming to be like. There's a sense that I read Zahn as being like, what did I do? No, I'd do it. What did I do? No, this is the right. I need home. But I was flashing back to Josh, your discussion that you brought up a couple times of seeing Dargo as sort of panickedly masculine. And having no confidence in himself.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
I think if you're going to bring balls into the conversation, there is fragile. They are a rather fragile aspect of masculinity.
They absolutely are.
I agree.
Which is ironic because when you say that a person has balls, you're saying that they have a lot of courage.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
No, men have been very good about rewriting insecurities.
Balls are very.
I was like, you give those those things so much as a tap, and they're like, oh.
Yeah, they're very fragile
Correct.
things.
Yes, accurate, true.
I mean,
They act like they're gonna die.
I mean,
Yes.
a vagina is a lot more tough when you think about it.
It really is. It literally is. Like,
Yeah.
it's designed to yeah. I mean, we saw Rigel, crawl up the birth canal. So yeah, obviously,
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Well, while we're on the subject of such things, we perhaps should discuss eugenics.
Okay.
Sure.
That's fun.
Good segue.
Yes. I can segue with the segueness. Okay, I find this interesting. The Godwin's Law discussion, and I love that John is doing the Star Trek thing. He is going full Picard, but I don't think thinks he's going to change anybody's mind.
No.
But the thing about sort of his discussion is going straight for Mengele is you don't need to go full Mengele to have this discussion.
Right?
If you wanted to make this land for the audience to actually think about how you use scientific stuff, if you wanted to do what Frankenstein was written as, the ethics of scientific stuff, I was thinking you could have John as a scientist talk about how his experiment went wrong.
Right.
Or his deals with ethics, or if you want to use an example from history and you actually want to make a point to the audience, why didn't he go for the Tuskegee syphilis study?
Okay.
That would actually, or something. If you pulled out something where, when you go full Nazi, nobody associates themselves with the Nazis, even though as much as Namtar is a Nazi.
Yeah.
Even the Nazis don't associate themselves with the Nazis.
That's real.
Yeah.
Well,
they're going to go, oh, that's a monster. So if you wanted to actually have that conversation, and it's a criticism I have of Star Trek too sometimes, that they will bring out the most obvious evil story and not necessarily one that could actually make the audience think more. And I think if you'd brought up the syphilis, the Tuskegee syphilis experiments, when it was Americans, John's own people, who did the horrible thing. For anyone who doesn't know about the Tuskegee syphilis study, what they did is American doctors tracked a group of Black men with syphilis without telling them that they had syphilis, even after it could have been treated, and deliberately prevented them from getting treatment that was actually available in order to study in order to get information about how syphilis would, how it played out. Information that they already had in more ethical ways.
That's awful, to say the least.
We had, and since I'm saying that it reaches the audience better if you use one that's from your own culture, there was a Canadian study where they deliberately starved children in residential schools to study the effects of malnutrition. It's not only the Nazis who do horrible things in the name of science.
Right.
When we go full Nazi, nobody listens. That's the essential part of Godwin's Law, is that people stop listening when you talk about Nazis and something that we agree is monstrous.
I getcha.
So if we're looking at this from a culture studies perspective of the writer is trying to reach the audience and make the audience think about how far should science go? How monstrous can scientists be? You do that better when you do not when you don't go full Nazi. But on the other hand, I think this is John doing a Picard speech to distract Namtar.
Yeah.
And Namtar, like I did in the summary, Namtar has obviously read Ayn Rand. He is full bought into Nazi shit. So he is not about to be convinced.
Right.
If Atlas shrugs any harder, his arms will fall off.
Yeah, this is arguing with a Facebook mom. It's
The mention of Mengele for me, like I do agree that it was very much a that escalated quickly moment, but at the same time it was funny for me because I was thinking a lot about sort of like Nazi Germany and sort of the stuff that they did in terms of like horrific medical experiments and stuff. That was on my mind. So when John said it, I'm like, well, there it is. Like, yeah. But I agree though. Sorry, I didn't think of that, but I agree that referencing something closer to home makes it much more impactful and will open more eyes, because like, I mean, Nazi Germany was like the greatest evil of the 20th century, you know, like everybody agrees that was a horrific moment in time. Yeah.
But then again, you know, like this show, it's like produced in Australia, right?
Yes. Yeah, filmed
so it has
here.
Australian writers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So they were probably trying to go with something more universal that everyone would know. Like,
That's
you know,
true.
if you're outside of America, you might not know about Tuskegee, but it's 100% sure that you know who the Nazis are.
Yeah. See, I'm not sure if we have anything like that. I mean, there was... Yeah, I mean, historically, Australians have done awful things to, like, the indigenous people and whatnot, but in terms of, like, medical experiments, I can't think of anything, really. I don't know.
They aren't known, but they're probably... dollars to donuts, there are some.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. That's not to say there's nothing, it's just, yeah, not much is known, I guess.
I believe the writer is American.
Oh, okay.
But yes, they're producing in Australia. Yes, I understand everybody knows about the Nazis. So if we use an example other than the Nazis, we actually have to explain it. But I think sometimes it's worth doing the explaining.
Sure. Yeah.
That's true. That's fair.
So actually, I didn't get any of that. I didn't think that I didn't get a commentary on technology, and I didn't get I didn't connect the Mengele reference to medical ethics. I connected the Mengele reference to supremacy, basically.
Okay.
And Namtar's way, he was trying to make himself into the Übermensch.
Okay.
He was trying to elevate himself above, he was like, I'm the most powerful corporeal being there is, kind of deal. Which I'm interested that this is the second episode in a row where we've talked about corporeal and non-corporeal.
Oh.
But the Mengele reference to me was about somebody doing everything possible to elevate themselves over the innocent and to exploit anyone along the way to do that, and connects loosely to the kind of selfish Looney Tunes cartoon that's playing out on Moya, where they're all trying to do whatever they can, especially Zahn is trying to do whatever she can in order to get where she wants to go. So that's interesting. I didn't get medical ethics. I got supremacy. I got Übermensch.
That's there. I see that for sure.
Yeah, it may have been an extreme comparison, but it was apropos.
Yeah. Just there is more to eugenics and supremacy than the Nazis.
Oh, yeah. They're very much. I mean, eugenics came about because of ideas of supremacy, really. So, yeah, sort of one and the same, sort of.
Yeah.
I'm sad to say that, unfortunately, the Third Reich took a lot of inspiration from horrors committed here in America. So,
and Canada. Apartheid was inspired by. This is the thing when we discuss the dark parts of history. It's important that we do, but boy, does it bring in it. Conversation.
Yeah, like this is fun.
It's been so fun doing this podcast with you guys.
Right?
Welcome, Ren. Welcome.
Glad we brought you aboard to talk about human atrocities.
Yeah.
But this is Farscape, so the dark and the fun and the crazy do kind of cheek by jowl through the whole thing, you know?
The darkness and like the traumatic stuff and the off-kilter stuff is really like bringing me into this more. It's much more interesting for me than I know the three of you are big Star Trek fans, and I don't mind Star Trek, but the fact it's, from what I've seen, it's much more clean and straight-laced than this, and yeah, I just think that all that horribleness or whatever you want to call it is something that makes this far more interesting for me. Yeah.
Baby, we need to get you watching some DS9.
Yeah.
Deep Space Nine kind of deconstructs the cleanness of Star Trek.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be your Star Trek.
Okay. I've seen a bit of TNG, or quite a bit. I've seen some Voyager, and I've seen a lot of the movies from the 90s, but I barely remember them because I was a kid when I saw them. But you would describe me as a casual fan. Like, I know all the references, and I've seen enough to know what it's about, and yeah.
I would describe you as a casual fan.
Your point about Star Trek being clean and in a way that that Farscape really isn't is well taken. Yeah,
this is, I mean, I've said before that I'm not hugely into sci-fi. It's gotten to be sci-fi with a bit of a twist, and this has a twist for me, and I dig it.
I remember when I first started watching the show, and I was like, this has big Firefly energy. Like, you know, it's very grungy, very kind of like not squeaky clean sci-fi. Mm-hmm. Takes you away from this utopian ideal of futuristic sci-fi, and it makes you like really look and be like, this is reality. This is, you know, people are crappy sometimes. Things are crappy a lot of the time. There are installations in place that, you know, you can try and fight, but they are so much more powerful than you. And I was like, wow, this is. I don't want to say it's depressing, because it's not, but like it is really like kind of jarring.
The balance of darkness and humor is kind of a dance.
I do appreciate that this show is so comical, like, and like you said, it does balance out the darkness. It's kind of like that song, "Smile, Though Your Heart Is Breaking."
I like that song.
Yeah, I think that's a very John song.
Oh, now I'm sad.
Yeah.
John, I want to protect him.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't really talk a lot about John in this episode.
There isn't a lot to say about him, though, really. Like, he's just sad and depressed because he wants to go home, and there is this awful shit going on around him. Like, I don't have much to say beyond that myself. But if you guys
definitely is not a John-centric episode.
No, but I appreciate his actions once he recognizes what's happening with Aeryn.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I think that's far more interesting than drunk John at the beginning of the episode.
I enjoyed John in this episode all the way through, and I, you know, he's doing the thing that continues to stand out amongst the crew, of choosing empathy and choosing compassion, and that's what saves the day.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of both literally being able to save Aeryn, but also like he saves Moya. You know, and in doing so shatters the crystal and lets everybody just kind of retreat to their corners, you know, and lets Dargo go and try to make amends to Pilot, and lets Rigel go back to doing whatever Rigel does.
Am I the only one who thought that crystal kind of looked like a glass golf tee?
Yeah.
Like from its shape?
Yeah, it did, yeah.
I love John's genuine concern when he's holding Aeryn in his arms, and he gives her the shot, and she starts like I'm spluttering, convulsing, and he says like, what's happening, or something like that. He thinks that she's dying or something. He's genuinely concerned and frantic. I do love that.
He also did the thing that he did in Sebastian Heat episode where he got her consent before he stuck her in the eye.
Yeah.
I thought it was really sweet that he invited her to come live on Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she wants to go. She wants to go. She pretends that she doesn't, but she wants to.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that we all ship John and Aeryn.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's almost like the show doesn't know who wants to ship though, because one moment it's John and Zahn and John and Aeryn, and I don't freaking know, man. Now this episode, Zahn and Rigel. Who would have thunk it? I don't know.
Does the show not know, or does the show want to keep you off balance because it's got a longer story to tell?
Do you know what? I'm just all in now. Like, it just whatever happens. I'm done trying to predict anything because I don't freaking know.
They'll be in space.
Yes. That's the one constant. And now you've said that, they'll go settle on a planet.
I swear to God. If they wind up stranded on a planet for an entire season arc or something like that, then fuck me, I guess. But
And of course, there is that end scene with that coda scene with John and Aeryn. The smiley face.
Oh, yeah.
With the food cubes.
when he made her pancakes.
That's cute.
I love him. I love John so much.
I mean, he would make her pancakes if he had the stuff to make her pancakes. All he has is food cubes, so he makes them into a smiley face. And
she doesn't get it.
She just doesn't get it.
Yeah, like she just doesn't get it.
He's like, it's a smiley face. She's like.
And, you know, earlier on, I didn't like John. I made that very obvious that he got on my nerves, but that's all gone now. I love him. I think he's great.
Yeah,
he's the best boy.
Yeah. And then her response. I mean, yeah, I love that scene. I do love that he doesn't push her to talk. But he definitely gives her a space. And I love the moment where, he touches her and she lets him and all that. It's just, yeah. I love to see it. Yeah.
For me, it's like they're my Janeway and Chakotay. I just want them to be together.
I'm feeling triggered in Voyager, but yes.
I don't know what's going on. I know who Janeway is. That's about it.
Chakotay is the first officer. He's like tattoo face guy.
Oh, yep. I know him. Yep.
Great guy.
I don't even know if there is a John and Aeryn ship name.
Jaren.
Apart from
Jaren.
Farscape.
Oh.
Jaren.
Just Farscape.
Aeryn? No.
Chryson?
I have to look that up. Or if any of our listeners know if there is an actual ship name that's
Astronaut Keeper. Astro Keeper.
I like that. Peastronaut? Peastronaut.
Peastronaut.
I like that better.
That could work. I'm not gonna lie, the first episode, I thought maybe Dargo and Zahn could be like, all right. But then she was like, oh, you're just a child. And I was like,
I don't know. I find the thought of Dargo being intimate with anyone really creepy for some reason. I don't know. Because he's this big, hulking, hairy, angry man.
Well.
I don't know.
Some people are into that.
Yeah, I know. That's true. I'm not going to kink shame. I'm sorry. Zara, you've already said that you ain't got a bit of a thing for him.
I totally haven't. He is my big hot himbo. I don't mind the tentacles when he's got that voice, and I just.
Worf is my favorite from TNG for a reason.
There you go.
Oh wow.
Yeah. He's not my favorite, but I'm very fond of Worf, especially DS9 Worf. No, yeah, I always have a thing for Klingons.
Plus, we already got that implied scene of Dargo just absolutely bisecting that one woman in
Right?
It's thank God it's
Thank God
Friday
it's Friday
again.
again. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he went for it.
Excuse my French, but Dargo fucks.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, he
I'm
doesn't
sure
make
he's one hell of a fucker. One hell of a fucker.
I mean, pretty much everyone on this ship does, right?
Right.
Zahn definitely does.
Well, some people aren't a body breeder.
You guys need a mute button for me.
Every girl's crazy about a
No, we
sharp-dressed
don't.
man.
There's this meme on Tumblr that like says every friend group includes a bimbo, a mean bisexual, an even meaner lesbian, she-theys and he-theys, a token straight who's on thin ice, an astrology bitch who has everyone's star sign memorized, and a short king. And like every variation I've seen of that for Farscape, without fail, the last one that says and a short king is always right.
Yeah.
And Santa's always the astrology bitch.
Yeah.
I love
That's
it.
great.
I love it. No, we're
Yeah.
really living up to our name this episode.
Okay, as we've devolved somewhat.
Yeah.
And we should point out that this episode, we are not scientists, but I'm pretty sure that this episode does not actually understand DNA
No.
or evolution or science.
I don't think, because this episode implies the existence of like super DNA or something, and that's not a thing. That's not a thing.
No.
I mean, not yet anyway.
I like to refer to a thing called fictiphysics,
I like that.
Yes.
where science does not need to be science in a story.
Right. Yeah.
It just kind of has to make sense for a story.
Yeah, and like whatever vehicle they use to tell the story is much less important than the story itself.
Oh, yeah.
Well, ish.
Exactly.
Ish. I mean, it's
As long as it doesn't destroy
it's-
your narrative
it's
transport.
very subjective, of course. Very.
That's all.
If you don't like pseudoscientific technobabble, don't get into Star Trek.
Or
Right.
just sci-fi in general, really.
Tech the tech.
Yeah. Although this episode is sort of famous as one of the bloopers of the series that even the creators have discussed. One of those wish we could redo is the CGI on when Aeryn shoots Namtar and he heals, but his clothes heal.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I thought I was the only one.
Yeah.
Super clothes.
Yeah, no, that's been pointed out. That's one of those things that like the creators like we fucked that one up.
It's like the extremists from Iron Man 3. How like the people with the extremists, like, you know, their bodies heal, but also their clothes heal.
Yeah.
Yeah, magic clothes.
I just assumed it was some sort of nanotech, like nanobite clothing or something. I don't know.
I actually.
Good for you. You did good.
I assumed that I was wrong and they had never been clothes.
If I'm being honest, I actually didn't notice.
I was too distracted by the nipple cups.
That's one would be.
No, it's a thing they bring up in the audio commentary.
Okay.
Like, we should have gotten that. Yeah.
I just want to say quickly that seeing Namtar shrink into this tiny little creature and then like being like thrown into a cage is so satisfying to me. There's something so satisfying about that.
Go to your room.
Yeah.
And this absolutely is Pinky in the Brain, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, okay then, favorite parts.
Our guest, why don't you go first? What's your favorite?
My favorite part was definitely the last scene where Dargo plays his instrument for Pilot. It was so nice. Just like a sigh of relief after an episode of a lot of badness.
My favorite part is Aeryn ripping into Zahn and Dargo for what they did. You attacked one of your own. It's so nice to see some compassion and loyalty from her. I said before that her moral compass is expanding, and it's just lovely to see her becoming a better, much less selfish and much less cold person. Loved it.
My favorite part was, for sure, the pancake food cube scene at the very end, and it's a smiley face. And then, he was like, why don't you just tell me all about it? And she goes, okay. It was just so nice. I just liked it a lot,
Surprisingly enough, that's my favorite part too. I think I will take it specifically. I think it's when he ends it with, you would fit in on Earth.
Yeah.
I think that's a gift he's trying to give to her.
Oh, yeah, that's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. Big time. Oh.
Happy moment.
Yeah.
So, Ren, I know you make great videos on YouTube. Where can our lovely listeners find you?
I am all over the internet. You can find me at Ren the Barbarian on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, because I'm a borderline millennial Gen Z. So, of course, I've got a TikTok. And if you want to find me on Tumblr, I am Victorian-Sexstash.
I dig it.
And I really loved your most recent video. Which Star Trek was that? My brain, I'm so bad at titles. Yes, I know, I'm bad at titles. It was the one with the jizz flowers.
Wait, did you just say jizz flowers? Did I just hear that?
Yes.
There's an episode, it's called This Side of Paradise, and basically they go to this planet where there are flowers everywhere that squirt you with, like, spores. It's like white.
Oh god!
So it's just like everyone's going around getting squirted in the face with flower jizz.
The 1960s, everybody.
It was wild.
The title of my video is, and I quote, "Bukkake Flower Hippie Commune."
Iconic.
Because when you get squirted in the face with the flower jizz, you become like a hippie zombie, and all you want to do is just chill out and be a farmer.
Sounds like fun. Really?
And you had a lot of fun with the spurkiness of it all.
Oh, yes. I always do.
Jack, where can folks find you?
You can find me on Twitter at lackofsurprise1. That's all one word with the number 1 at the end. You can find me on another podcast I do with my friend Ian Martin from Passion of the Nerd. We call that Podcast of the Nerds. We talk a lot about mental health and some nerdy stuff. It's a good time. Come and find us. And you can also check out my work with Chipperish Media on the Endless and Still Pretty podcast.
I'm over on Instagram at Josh Gosdin. Come on over if you enjoy food and self-care.
And I am Sara Ezzat. You can find me on YouTube under the Costume Codex. I should really be making more videos. I hope to soon. I have some ideas going. And you can find me on Twitter at BlueStockInSara. And of course, you can find all of us on Discord. We have a Discord server. You will find the link in the doobly-doo. Or you can find us on Twitter at MuppetSexNT1, because there's a limited number of characters. Or you can email us at MuppetSexandTrauma@gmail.com. All of that stuff will be in the doobly-doo for all of it. And you will also find Ren on our Discord server, as they are officially our DRD, as I have chosen to call our mods.
Awesome.
Okay. So in 2 weeks, we will be watching They've Got a Secret.
Ooh.
Which will be followed by Till the Blood Runs Clear.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So join us in 2 weeks for They've Got a Secret. And I still say, folks, if you either haven't watched the episode or you have watched the episode but want to give us wrong answers, it would be fun to speculate on what you think the secret might be.
John and Dargo get married. They get Vegas married. They got super drunk one night, and then they just woke up in bed together, wedding rings on their fingers, and they were like, "What did we do?"
I like it.
What Ren said. That's my answer.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
Same.
better than anything
100%.
I can come up with.
Everybody's got a secret at this point.
That's true. Yes, and we will get at least one revealed.
Or will
So, oh no, we will get one revealed.
we? Or will we?
And some other surprises.
The secret will be revealed. But Ren, thank you very, very much for joining us.
Here.
It's been a
Thank you
lot
for
of
being here.
fun.
It's really nice to have you.
You were our very first guest.
Yes.
I hope I set a good precedent.
We should have you back sometime.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I loved being here, and you guys are awesome. And thank you so much for having me.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming.
Lovely.
Okay, so you will see the three of us regulars in 2 weeks' time. That's it from us. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Bye,
friends.
y'all.
Also, you haven't seen the whole show, Ren?
I'm about halfway through the last season.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. I thought you had finished. All right.
No, they're pretty far ahead of us, but
It takes a while for me to finish, Jack.
listen.
I'm sorry. I'm 12. I'm 12.
No, that was absolutely intentional.
Okay. Okay. Good.
got where I'm coming from.
You missed our discussion in Mirror Mirror last night. They are not as innocent as they look.
Okay. No, I panicked for a second because I'm like, oh, did I just like take that in a
No.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know
This
why I'm like
this is going to be heavy on the sex with the Muppet Sex and Trauma.
Okay, I'm doing Pinky in the Brain jokes. Will people get Pinky in the Brain jokes?
Oh yeah. I feel like if people are watching Farscape,
yeah, I don't think our audience is that young.
Then they're in tune enough to the pop culture zeitgeist to know about Pinky and the Brain.
Yeah, because he is totally
Pinky
the Brain.
the Brain wasn't that long ago.
They're our age, so I think so. They're the right age.
That was a very middle-aged moment. Will the kids get the thing
like
that I
25
referenced?
years ago.
It is a daily struggle.
What
Let
are
me tell
we
you.
going to do tonight, Kornata?
Hello,
Same
fellow
thing
young people.
What are we going to do tonight, Namtar? The same thing we always do, Kornata. Try and take over the world.
Try and take over the.
Try and assimilate into a pilot.
The brain.
Brain.
Well, now that you've said assimilate, now I'm thinking about the Borg.
Pink.
Resistance is futile.
You'll disarm your weapons and escort us to Sector 001. If you attempt to intervene, we'll destroy you.
I will comply.
You will all become one with the Borg.
Is that your Pat Stew, Josh?
That's my Patrick Stewart as Locutus as played by an overworked butler.
So Alfred, basically.
We will all become one with the Borg.
Alfred Pennyworth is a Borg.
Right. Master Wayne.
Wow.
I die upon your bottom. I'm bloody well off too.
Resistance is futile, Master Wayne.
The key is to only move the bottom part of your jaw and keep the rest of your head stationary.
Okay. You've been working on this for a while, it seems.
What, Josh? Think about Star Trek a lot? No, I wouldn't have guessed.
There's the thought.
No, there's the thought, and there's the thought.
There. Oh, we are. Aha! I see what you did.